Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So just moments ago, Bitcoin tapped a new all-time high at $123.6 thousand. This happened after a major breakout from a huge monthly range, and the daily charts are now looking really bullish. Let's dive into the charts today and talk about exactly what needs to happen for Bitcoin to continue in its price discovery and also the alt season that is on the horizon. Let's get into it. As always, before we jump in, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so diving into the charts, what an absolutely crazy last 24 hours it's been for Bitcoin over here. We can see we've tested a new all-time high at $123.6 thousand with this small wick right there above the red line. And on the daily chart here, we've also seen, with 40 minutes left to the close, a breakout from this major monthly range over here, right? Starting all the way back in the middle of July, we've been sort of chopping between and under 120,000 for the entire last 35-day period, right? So it's really good to see that that breakout's finally happening. We still do have 40 minutes left until the close, but unless Bitcoin drops a good 3% here in the next 40 minutes, we're very likely to see the candle close above that 120K resistance. So we can see though, we are struggling just a tiny bit against that prior range high, with that red line right there being this sort of final level of resistance before Bitcoin well and truly enters into price discovery. So let's dive into our analysis and talk about the potential for Bitcoin to continue in this price discovery, what exactly we need to see on the small time frame as well as the high time frame, and how all of that relates to the upcoming alt season. Now, before we get into any more analysis, guys, let's really quickly touch on one of the most important parts of being a successful trader, and that's managing your trading fees. So BTC has partnered with me to help you guys out and give you 15% off all of your trading fees. So if you'd like to support the channel and you're still really looking for a great non-KYC exchange with lots of listings, high liquidity, and security, BTC is definitely a great one to check out. And as a thank you for signing up under my affiliate code, you can get 10% off your VIP membership if you message me your membership number when you check out your VIP membership. Thanks. Let's get back into the charts. So if we zoom into the 4-hour chart, we can see the exact level that Bitcoin is currently struggling against and sitting within, and that is this range high on the 4-hour chart, with the candle close at $122.7 thousand, the lower red line right there, and the top of that, or the end of the liquidity zone, and that final level of resistance at the all-time high at $123.25 thousand. So we've got 36 minutes left till the 4-hour candle close, and what we're essentially looking for is for the candle close itself to be above this lower level right here, the range high close for that prior all-time high on the 4-hour chart, because that would signal a breakout over here of this level of resistance. We're entering this liquidity zone on the close, and then the trigger, or the buy side liquidity, and the end of that liquidity zone would be the trigger for the aggressive portion of the bullish move upwards past resistance at the all-time high. So even if the next 35 minutes Bitcoin does not manage to close above 123.25, the prior all-time high, it's still looking very bullish if the daily close sits above 120K and we manage to close above this lower red trend line or horizontal line at 122.7, right, entering that final liquidity zone of resistance. In failing to do that, just below that is another level of support right here at this prior wick high, starting at 122.2 thousand down to the close at 121.5K. But the key thing here that we're really looking at, if Bitcoin does end up facing a rejection here at this level of resistance, is that on the daily chart, we managed to sustain the breakout. So even if we see a correction and we go back down to retest $120,000, a daily candle close or continued daily candle closes above this level and sustaining it as a support should retain Bitcoin's overall bullish narrative, right? Because it essentially continues to validate the breakout despite seeing a short-term correction. For example, if we take a look at the most prior breakout from 123,000 on the short term, being this wick right here, what we essentially failed to do in breaking above 120k was flipping that level to support, right? So we faced a rejection right here at around 122.3, and then following that, we immediately lost 120k as well. The daily candle close was not above that level of resistance, and we went back down to retest the point of control here as well as our short-term uptrend, and eventually bounce on support, right? But that's not what we want. We want to hold that level as a base of support to facilitate further bullish continuation. Now, on the weekly time frame, things are looking similarly really bullish. We've still got 4 days left till the weekly candle close, but if on the short term we're able to trigger that aggressive rally above $123,000 on the short term, we should see a weekly candle close above this range high at that prior all-time high right here, which would be a really bullish break on the macro scale. But also, worst comes to worst, what we're looking at is the fact that on the weekly chart, we're very likely to have broken above the weekly range high right there at $119.4 thousand, right? The prior high for the weekly candle closes. Again, being a really good sign. If we do continue to rally over the next 4 days, though, what we can see there being a potential of as well, which is really good, is a possible breakout over this 1.5 year long RSI downtrend, right? Finally flipping momentum to be bullish for the first time within this yearly period, and sort of trigger a much more aggressive rally potentially for the last segment of the bull cycle as per the 4-year date range trends. So moving on to the macro, let's really quickly talk about this before we move on to altcoins. So if we take a look at historical date range trends from Bitcoin in every single 4-year cycle, we've generally seen patterns in terms of the date range that each segment of the price action has. So for example, from the top to the bottom to the dead cat bounce level, and the bottom to the top. And generally from the bottom to the top in every cycle, we see 1,064 days of macro bullish price action. So in this current cycle, the bottom being around $16,000, extrapolated by 1,064 days, that takes us to about the 6th of October, which means that in this current cycle, Bitcoin should have another 6 to 7 weeks, Bitcoin and altcoins should have another 6 to 7 weeks to experience macro bullish price action. Now, it's worth noting that in this current cycle, there is a lot of new developments in the market. For example, institutional adoption, the late interest rate cuts in the US, right? So we expected them from 2020 throughout 2025. The next rate meeting isn't until late September, and then October and December, and we're very unlikely to see those cuts until after October, and those are generally bullish, right? Because the cost of debt decreases, risk in the market decreases, increase in investments in high risk assets, yada yada, right? So that could push Bitcoin up continuously beyond the 6th of October. But until that happens, right, we have to sort of take it at face value and assume that until we see these warning signs that the top is going to develop, that the date range trend somewhat holds valid, right? Until it's invalidated, we have to assume that it's being respected. We have been rallying until the 6th of October. Potentially, if Bitcoin drops below the weekly Gaussian channel here, or we see other macro red flags developing on the charts, we might see an earlier top than that. But as of right now, that is the assumption that we're laboring under. So with that in mind, that means that with the altcoin season starting to come into play, and we'll talk about those developments in a moment, we have about 6 to 7 weeks of macro bullish price action remaining. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the potential for the upcoming altcoin season. And the main thing that I'm really watching in this next weekly candle close, or in the next segment of price action, is this current weekly candle close on Bitcoin dominance. So we can see here on Bitcoin dominance that we're finally breaking below the 50 EMA for the first time since November 2022, which is really huge. Traditionally, breaking below the 50 EMA here on the weekly chart has been a signal for the altcoin season, as we've seen massive amounts of rotation of money out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. And we can see that in this current segment of price action, aside from this small dip over here, we are finally breaking down from the 50 EMA for the first time since that period back in November. So this could be a really huge moment for altcoins. And if we take a look at total 3, we're essentially facing the final level of resistance that sits here on this chart, starting from 995 up to $1.1 trillion before we tap the all-time high at 1.16, and the altcoin market cap, so excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, enters price discovery, right? of course triggering, well, should be triggering high time frame rallies for many altcoins, or the entire altcoin market. And what's really important here to be watching for is that while Bitcoin rallies aggressively, what we're watching for is a next potential correction from Bitcoin, because it is going to be in that small correction that is going to see the rotation of money from Bitcoin into altcoins. So generally in that small correction is when we see total 3 go upwards and total sort of hold stagnant for a little bit as the money shifts out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. Alrighty guys, that is a wrap on today's analysis. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed it or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. And sign up down below to beat you next to get 15% off your trading fees as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.